All right, guys, we are live right now. How many of you are excited to join this interview today? Awesome. Okay, so today we are very fortunate to bring my good friend Joshua from Chronos agency. All right, so Joshua actually specializes in email marketing. All right, so Joshua, can you share with our audience a little bit more about yourself so that our audience get to know more about you?
Yeah, for sure. Glad to be here. Happy to be here. And so a little bit about me. I am the CEO and co-founder of Chronos Agency. We are a lifecycle marketing agency, and we help e-commerce brands scale profits with email, SMS, and mobile push notifications. And we've been doing this for about 4 years now, 4 years coming, and we've helped basically hundreds of brands, close to, I think, over 300 brands now.
Wow.
um, and it's been quite a journey. And yeah, having that specialization gives us a lot of insights into what's working in the industry and what's not working.
Wow, amazing. 300 over brands. So I'm just curious, right? How did you stumble into like email marketing? Because I know that a lot of digital marketers out there, they are usually like Facebook marketers or even like Google, YouTube marketers. But yours is a very specialized niche, which is email marketing. So I'm just curious, how did you started Chronos and what is your journey like?
Yeah, for sure. So back in 2017, I was in school. I was in NUS, the National University of Singapore, and at that point in time, I was doing a little bit of drop shipping on eBay, not on
Yeah,
Shopify. So I didn't
the good
own my
old days.
customers, good old days, and I made a little bit of money. That was my first taste of online money, and that convinced me that, oh, all these ads that I'm seeing online, it's not just a scam like most people would say. It works. And then I took that money that I generated to reinvest into my education. So I bought a ton of courses, and I studied a lot of different ideas and information that I could find online. One of the most impactful being Ezra Firestone's course.
Wow.
So Ezra Firestone is a he's a he has been in the e-com space for a long time, since the dropshipping days to now
Yeah.
building a very cool brand called Boom by Cindy
Boom by Sydney.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they've generated like 9 figures in revenue, as a business, as a company. And I've learned a lot through like going through his blogs and his courses, and email marketing being one of the channels that really stood out to me, because firstly, most importantly, I got addicted to the process of clicking send and then seeing the numbers flow in, and it was
Wow.
almost instant.
Instant
Yeah,
feedback.
instant feedback loop, right? And I could
Yeah.
basically improve on it, and it will give me like direct feedback on, this worked really well, this sucked, and I could improve on it pretty quickly. So that fed into the instant gratification loop that I was um, quite keen on. And secondly, it really played into my strengths as a copywriter. I was studying copywriting for a bit. I actually tried being a freelancer, but I realized that my copywriting skills isn't as amazing as I thought it was. But it was enough. It was enough, coupled with the frameworks and strategies and ideas I learned online. And when I saw the impact of it on e-com brands, generating like, even back then, like 10-20% in revenue
Yeah.
from nothing, that's good enough. I mean, if you're generating 1 mil a year, an extra 100K without ad spend, think of how much that means for your bottom line, for your profit margins.
Yeah.
And today, our average client generates close to like 30% of their total revenue with
That's
emails
amazing.
alone.
Yeah, that's true.
So super impactful. And when we bring a lot to the table, we can also naturally build a business around it and get paid for it. So that was how we got into email.
Awesome. I saw that, 90% of your customers are being referred, which means that you are actually doing an amazing job. So I'm just curious, how do you land your first one or two customers before you
Oh
start building that
snap!
reputation in email marketing?
That's a good question. We when I started in 2017, um, it was a side hustle. It wasn't meant to be an agency. In fact, at a point in time, like around October of 2017, I was basically near my breaking point. I was juggling schoolwork. I was juggling a full-time internship. And I've also landed my sixth client in just 2 short months because of
Wow,
referrals.
crazy.
So I was waking up at 5 a.m., working till 11 p.m. just to keep up with everything. And it was very unsustainable. But the miracle happened when my first ever paying client referred me to two brothers by the name of Steve and Evan Tan, who's also based in Singapore.
Yeah,
And that referral eventually became very consequential for me and for the business, because Steve became a very strong referral partner to our business, and he sent us a ton of leads, and we were then able to come on to his Facebook community and basically tap into his network of people.
yeah.
That was the tipping point, basically, from then on. And it all stems from just doing good work.
Wow, wow.
And
Amazing.
the first couple of clients were actually free clients. I was doing it for free. My
Bring
pitch
value.
back then was, my pitch was just, you know what, I learned this stuff online and I'm keen to test it out. I have no brand. If if you're looking for some help in your business, I would love to do this for free. All I ask in return is, if you like what you see, give me a thumbs
Testimonial.
up, a review, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, even then it was quite difficult to get people to say yes. Naturally, it's quite suspicious, and there's always risk involved. But yeah, managed to convince a few folks, and it turned out to be pretty good.
Awesome. So let's talk about more about like technical stuff, right? Why email marketing, in your opinion, is very, very important for e-commerce business?
Profits. I believe in scaling profitably.
Yeah.
Even if you're taking venture money, having the ability to scale profitably gives you the ability to hit whatever milestones that you have set for your business and with your partners. It also gives you the ability to spend more compared to your competitors sustainably. When you look at email as a platform, as a channel, profitability is way higher and much less volatile than when you look at Facebook and paid ads, paid social, paid search. The only challenge there is in its ability to scale. You cannot have just email marketing alone, because we do permission-based email marketing. So you still need to rely on traffic to build the email list.
Yeah.
But without an email system in place, you're basically spending money to fill a leaky bucket.
Yeah.
A strong email system is the foundation to capturing the maximum value that you can from the leads that you're paying for already.
Yeah. To increase the AOV of every single customer.
The AOV, the LTV, we like to think of ourselves as the lifetime value optimizers in the e-com space.
Yeah. So how many times would you recommend us to email in a day?
In a day,
or even in a week or in a month? What is a good recommendation?
Okay, there's an ideal answer to that, and there's a practical answer to that. So the ideal answer is as much as you possibly can without crossing the boundaries of being annoying.
Yeah.
So you'll look at it from the perspective of a recipient. There are many businesses built off newsletters, like newsletter businesses, right? Like The Hustle, Trends, Morning Brew, great newsletters that are built off daily sends. They send out one email every single day, and engagement is super high because it's valuable content that people want. And there's value add every single day. If you can achieve that, if you can do that with your email program, go ahead. But more often than not, we find that in a typical e-com brand that's diversified, you'll have multiple SKUs and multiple categories of products, and therefore multiple categories of buyers and subscribers. You might have, people who really like shoes and people who only buy t-shirts and never buy shoes. How do you treat those two categories differently? They must have different interests, different content that appeals to them. Correct. Segmentation. And therefore that will dictate like how many emails can you send per day and per week. That's an ideal answer, right? If you're able to maximize the value of your list, whatever amount that may be, do that. But on the flip side, right, there's a practical reason to that. It's ROI. So the return on investment, and the investment comes in a few forms: your time cost, um, your agency costs, manpower costs, management costs, and all the other costs that's involved in creating those emails in the first place.
Yeah.
And if you're able to, ROI on that incremental number of emails per week, right? Let's say 3 emails, you're getting ROI of 10x, but then 4 emails, you're getting an ROI of 9x only. Are you willing to sacrifice that? At what point does it become negative? And those are the questions that you gotta ask. Are your resources better allocated elsewhere? But yeah, that being said, we rely pretty heavily on automations, because automations are much more personalized, much more relevant, and it's triggered based on certain behaviors and activities. And that gives you an indication of it's a good time to send out an email. So a typical consumer in our brands may receive like 3-5 emails a day, and they won't feel annoyed because it's
Awesome.
timed correctly with the
Yeah.
right cadence. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just curious, based on the industry level, what is a healthy open rate, click-through rate, or even like conversion?
Looking at the newsletters, right? The campaigns, the manual sends that you do, we should be seeing at least 20% in open rates, minimally, right now. That being said, the open rate metric may be dead already by fall this year. So by
Yeah.
September, it's gonna go away, I think.
That leads me to my next question.
Yeah. We can talk about that, but 20% is what you want to see. With automations, it's typically going to be higher. On average, it should be like 35% plus most of the time, because it's much more relevant and timely. Open rates are going to be much higher.
All right. So I think just now you mentioned briefly about the iOS 15, right? So let's look at iOS 15, right? How will it affect business owners like us, or how will it affect the email marketing as a whole? What are your point of view? I'm just very curious to learn more.
You know what? I don't think a lot of people even know what the iOS 15 update actually means for marketers. So to basically give you a broad overview, right, of what it means for email, part of the iOS 15 update is email privacy, options for email privacy. So the most notable part about this is Apple Mail users, Apple Mail app users. So on iPhone, there's on the Apple Mail app, you can have a Gmail account, an Outlook account, and it doesn't matter what ISP you're using. As long as you're using that app, you have the option to hide your IP address, and you have the option to trigger a proxy to remove all trackers that indicate back to the marketer that you've opened an email. So what that means is when you send an email to an Apple Mail user, right, they have the option to route that email to a proxy somewhere else first, open it, load all the images and clean out all the trackers, and then load it up onto their inbox.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is on our Klaviyo or MailChimp account, whatever, it's going to look like our open rates are 100%.
Very high. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So it's going to be completely irrelevant. You might be thinking, all right, it's just Apple Mail app users, right? There are tons of other users. But the fact is, according to Litmus, at least, from their stats, 46% of their email openers are using Apple Mail. So
That's pretty
it
high.
becomes very, very significant.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Exactly. So for that reason, it's enough to mess up with the engagement metrics that rely on open rates, any email automations, any triggers that rely on open rates. For instance, like if this person did not open this email, then send this email, which we do very often.
Yeah.
That's not going to work anymore. So we have to move away from that. And the biggest concern with with our with our email program is deliverability. Email deliverability relies very heavily upon engagement insights. Deliverability basically just means how likely is how well are your emails landing in the right inboxes at the right time. That's going to be affected because when you look at email deliverability from like providers like Gmail or Outlook, they rely upon signals from your consumers and from your users that they're opening your emails to tell Gmail that this is a good sender. I should prioritize them and put them in the right inboxes in future. We can't do that anymore. So what we have to rely upon right now are the proxies to engagement, or rather the next level of engagement metrics, which are click rates, placed orders, active on site, add to cart events, view product page events, as well as active on site events. I'm using a lot of Shopify event examples here, but it's largely relevant. So when you look at these metrics to replace open rates, it's not a 100% replacement, but it's good enough for us to rely upon. So that's what I would recommend looking into.
That's very good advice. But what about like click-through rate? What is a good indication of click-through rates for our audience to actually understand a little bit more?
Now, click-through rates a little bit different from click rates. So we're going to look at click rates for now. So click rates are the number of people who clicked on a link in your email as a percentage to the total number of people who received your email. So click-through rates is the number of people who clicked over the number of people who opened, which we may not have an accurate understanding anymore. So we're going to look at click rates from now on. So with click rates, it really varies depending on where your emails are being applied. At certain junctures of the customer value journey, right? Especially at the beginning, like if you're offering a discount code and you send an email, the click rates over there should be at least like 20+%, like at least 15 to 20%, right? Ballpark, sometimes more, naturally, because if you're sending a discount code to people who ask for it, you're expecting them to go to your website. But in other cases, like a sales email, for example, like a Father's Day sale, the click-through rate should be anywhere from 1 to 2% at scale. But with proper segmentation, you can bring that up even further to 3, 4, 5%. But it's going to be very in relation to your email strategy. So there isn't an exact like this is the one number you should be hitting. But anything below 1%, if you're running a sales campaign, is definitely a cause for concern. Definitely some room for improvement.
Amazing. So can you also share with our audience some tips about building a list, right? Because we also talk about the importance of having a list. So what are some strategies or some tips that you can actually give our audience on building a list? Because I believe that some of our audience, even though they are brand owners, they don't know the importance of email marketing. Even for myself personally, I only get to know about email marketing at the later stage of my e-commerce business. So I'm sure a lot of you will want to know what are some of the strategies that Joshua implement to actually help his clients to actually grow his list.
Yeah, absolutely. So list growth, if being in this group, you guys have an advantage. You know exactly how to grow your brand, how to grow your traffic, and if you're already spending money on traffic, right, you have to be capturing those leads into email addresses, and while you're doing that, right, you got to think of a strategy of email and phone number with SMS, and often this comes hand in hand. The two channels really work and interplay into each other very, very well. So when you think of lead capture, right, you want to be capturing both the email of the subscriber as well as the cell phone number. And it really is a journey of split testing. We typically aim for a conversion rate of 9% and above. And that's kind of like the higher end of the benchmark.
For cold traffic that actually goes to your website?
For cold traffic, correct. So about 9% of cold traffic should be converted into emails. That's the target that we should aim for. Now, there are some tactics that you can look into. The timing of your pop-up, your lead capture form, as well as the nature of your lead capture form. It doesn't always have to be a full screen takeover, right? Full screen and then, hey, stop. Here's take 10% off. That's bloody irritating because it affects the customer's buying journey, right? Yeah. So you may want to think of a couple of ways to kind of circumvent that. Number one, exit intent pop-ups only show when someone's about to leave. But even then, the sensitivity might be triggered based on like just random mouse movements.
Rolling up,
yeah. The second thing is it doesn't have to be a full screen takeover. It can be a slide in, like a very subtle one on the bottom left or top right corner. And it doesn't have to be in your face kind of a thing. I would definitely split test side by side and let the results speak for itself. And keep your ears on the ground on how your consumers are reacting to them. And as far as the timing, right, the first thing I was talking about, the timing and how you trigger the pop-up, exit intent being one of them. The second being a manually set time. So you can go to GA, to Google Analytics, to look at the average time that a new visitor spends on your page before they bounce, before they leave the website completely. Right, you take that average and you minus off like 10% or a certain amount off that average, and you set that as your time-based trigger. Let's say the average visitor spends 1 minute, 60 seconds on your site before they bounce. Set your trigger at maybe 54 or 55 seconds to appear, for the pop to appear. That's number two. Lastly, this is pretty interesting. And I would split test this as usual. A 60% scroll. If your product page is like a sales page, right?
Long
a relatively longer one. Yeah, long landing page. Like percentage of scroll, great trigger. We typically look at 60, 70% scroll to be the trigger for the pop to appear and kind of redirect them to the next stage in their buying journey. So that's
what are some of the common lead magnets do you give to your customers besides discounts? Do you just give discount or you give something else?
Oh man, that's a great question. Besides discounts, you can think of value-added offers from the things that don't cost you anything. Maybe adding a free something to the order, to their first order. That's a high perceived value. Or it can be it can be a digital product, right? Let's say you're selling pet products, maybe a free guide on how to train your dog. Dog training 101. Very easy to create, and it still builds into your brand and the value add to your customers. Those often work pretty well, but it really comes down to split testing and understanding like what that trigger is for your customers to buy for the first time ever. When you think about capturing new leads, maybe it's just a discount, right? Maybe it's free shipping, or maybe it's a one-time offer bundle kind of a thing. And so that's how I think about it. Oh, one thing I learned recently is when you're bundling, you should always think of the one hero product that customers want.
One hero product. Wow.
Yeah, one hero product in the bundle, and then everything else is fluff. Not necessarily fluff, but like just nice to haves, right? The nice to haves, but there's a one thing that people really want. Yeah. And you add maybe like a 10-20% to the price of that product, and you get like 10x the value of it with the free info product and the free other sample packs or whatever. The perceived value goes up significantly, and that conversion rate is often much better than otherwise, and it also adds to your AOV. So that's one thing I learned from 100% Pure. That's the founder of 100% Pure.com. Yeah.
Amazing. So can I ask you, what are some of the common mistakes that you see a lot of your clients or some of the e-commerce entrepreneurs, what are some of the mistakes that they make?
In terms of retention marketing in like email, SMS?
Yeah, email marketing as a whole. What are some of the common mistakes that you see e-com business owners are making?
I think the most The number one mistake has always been, and I think it will always be, the whole set it and forget it mindset with email automations. It's not super it's not super drastic. It's not a huge mistake, but I think it's costing people a lot more than they think. When you set up a program, like one time, like the cart abandonment, your welcome series, and all that stuff, and assuming you're a high growth business, right? And that's why you guys are in this mastermind and in this group, and you're growing, your business is naturally going to evolve. And I'm going to like go on a limb here and say that your business is probably going to look very, very different 6 months from now, 12 months from now. And if that's the case, right, why should your email system and automations look the same from like 6 months, 12 months back? It's not serving you anymore.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's on a theoretically, that's what it is, right? But on the practical level, like from business sense, your results will decline over time because it's not keeping up with the evolution of your business. From like the different SKUs that you're introducing, maybe you're coming up with new angles, your brand identity is evolving, and you're introducing new customers into the mix and new segments. And the way that you communicate with your customers with a welcome series back then may not apply to this wider group anymore. So you have to think about that constantly and keep an eye on the metrics, like the open rates, click rates, conversion rates. And if you see them going down, right, it's time to do a refresher. Or unless you're working with an agency like us, then it's a matter of an ongoing optimization that we do every single week.
That advice is just worth a lot of money. That advice alone is just worth a lot of money.
Yeah, let me tell you something. We've done so many audits, right, that when we come in, and bear in mind, these are like very relatively successful e-com brands, like doing 8 figures a year, low to mid 8 figures a year, right? And when I come in and when I look at their email automation software like Klaviyo, I often find little gaps in the automation system. For instance, like cart abandonment. Often people set that up one time and they forget about it and they don't optimize that anymore. What used to work would often decline over time. So I actually just looked at an account and they're converting at about 6%, 7% with their cart abandonment emails. So 7% of people who abandon and we have their email address will convert 7% of that. The benchmark that we set internally is at the very bare minimum 10%, all the way up to 20%. So when we do the work, right, we would aim for 15-20% conversions, meaning 15 to 20% of your cart abandoners should convert into a customer after going through this email sequence. So this person is basically leaving an 8-figure brand, mind you, anywhere from like 10% to 13% of conversions just left on the table.
Wow.
And cart abandonment, as we know, is one of the highest revenue generating flows.
Yeah, because of high intent.
Yeah, so that's easily 6-7 figures a year.
Amazing.
In just one tweak.
So last question, right? What advice would you give to people that just start out in e-commerce? Because we also have audience that just start out in e-commerce, building a small brand, but they probably interested to actually explore email marketing as well. So what advice would you give to this group of people?
Oh, that's a good one. Don't overcomplicate it. It might seem very complicated, but really good email marketing is really just good email, just good communication. And when you think about it, there are some really just core messages in some very important touch points in your customer's journey that you have to take note of as you're starting out. So the most like core basic, right, that you have to build out would be your welcome series, which is the customer acquisition series, as we call it, including the pop-up, welcoming them to the brand and introducing your offer and all that stuff. And then a cart abandonment email series, as well as a post-purchase email series. Just these 3 things would cover the basics.
Actually, I would like to add on something. A lot of people, they actually do up the sequence just in front, right? But they actually forgot about the post-purchase, which is really, really important. Yeah, which is really important.
You're building if you're in this group, right, you guys are building a business, not a product. right? If you're building a one-off product and you're just trying to get a one-off sale and then that's the end of the story, cool. You don't need a post-purchase, engagement of any kind. But if you're thinking of building this brand long-term, right? Fundamentally, what you're doing is you're building relationships with customers. Yeah. Although you don't see them and you don't say hi to them, you don't shake hands with them, they're people, they're human beings. So think of that trust. Correct. Build a trust from their perspective and what the experience is like. There's so many times that I buy stuff online, right? And I don't just dead silence. And then 2 weeks later, I get a notification that, oh, you got a parcel arriving. I'm like, what? I ordered something. I don't tend to kind of keep track of everything and I remember everything that I buy, but there are customers that get pissed off when they, just dead silence as well. Yeah. So that's just one relationship that went down the drain. And that's after someone pulled out their credit card details, gave you their information and bought from you.
Yeah, that's really high quality clients because they really trust you and they paid for your products.
Yeah, it's like, there's a reason why retargeting ads and retargeting marketing is so powerful and the highest ROAS of any other segments, because proven customers, they love you. So keep them, make them love you even more.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Joshua. I'm sure that the audience today, they learn a lot about email marketing. All right, so for those of you that would like to know more about Joshua and his agency, I will actually put the link below. All right, for those of you that are interested to connect with him, please go ahead and connect with Joshua and his agency. All right, because they specialize in email marketing. All right, so I hope that you guys enjoy this content today, and do remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the notification bell. Every day we'll be launching new videos like this to help you to grow and scale your e-commerce business. All right, so I hope that you guys enjoy this video and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
My pleasure. Bye.